Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for today's video. I am so looking forward to see where this video is going to end. We are going to be playing a scavenger hunt game that is going to lead us to the book that we'll be reading at the end of this video. It's been a while since I played the scavenger hunt game on this video. I think the last time I played it was like a year ago. It was the summer of 2024, and here we are about to hit the summer of 2025. I don't know what took me so long to bring it back because I really enjoyed playing it last time. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how it goes today. There's not really a genre that I'm leaning towards for this book that we are going to end up with. A lot of times the weather will kind of push me one way or another. When it's raining, I just really want a cozy fantasy or kind of like a mystery thriller. But today it's sunny. It's 70 degrees. It's kind of like we're embarking on the summertime finally. It's like May 30th today. It's about time. But summer weather doesn't really push me one way or another, maybe towards romances, but that's about it. So I am wide open for whatever genre we end up with at the end of this game. So this scavenger hunt game I first came across on Ellen Catherine's YouTube channel. She's the first person I ever saw doing this game, and she says her inspiration for it was from the YouTube creator Riley Marie. I'll link both of their videos in the description, so definitely go check out their channels and see how their scavenger hunts have gone in the past. So for those who have not seen a scavenger hunt done before, it's a pretty simple premise. I have 10 prompts, and for each prompt I will choose a book that will then be used as a part of the next prompt. And at the end of the 10 prompts, whatever book I end up with is the one that we will be reading for this video, and I'll do a little reading vlog of it at the end. There are kind of two ways to do it. Some people just list all 10 prompts in a row and just go down them in order. The way I'm going to do it is I put all the prompts on a wheel, and we are just going to spin the wheel each time and use whatever prompt it lands on. That way I can't kind of curate my picks towards what prompt is coming up next. It makes it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more mysterious. And you know, it makes me a little bit more nervous because we could end up with a 900, 1,000 page book at the end depending on the way this game goes. The prompts for this video were inspired by the prompts that Riley Marie and Ellen Catherine use in their scavenger hunt videos as well. So the first thing we have to do before we get started is choose which book we are going to start this game out with, and I figured the best way to do this is just to start with the last physical book I completed. And the last physical book I read was A Sprinkle of Spirits by Anna Mariano. So this is the book we will be starting the game with. All right, so first things first, now that we have the book we are going to be using, let's go ahead and bring up the spin wheel and we'll do our first prompt. The spin wheel will be over here. It's going to take up most of the screen because some of these prompts are really long. So I'm just going to lean over here. You may or may not see me. We'll figure out that part when I edit the video. All right, so let's bring up the spinning wheel. All right, so here's our spin wheel. We do have the 10 prompts on it. So let's go ahead and spin for our first prompt. I don't know which one we are going to end up with first. Let's see. All right, so we got use a random number generator to choose a random page, line, and then word, count the letters in that word, and then find a book that has a title with that number of words on it. All right, so at least we're getting one of the more complicated prompts out of the way in the beginning. So first let's see how many pages this book has in it, not including the sneak peeks. All right, so we have, don't worry, this is not a spoiler, it's the recipe at the end of the book, but we have 309 pages. All right, so let's do a random number between 1 and 309. All right, so 1 and 309. Oops, not 1309. 309. Randomize, here we go. So page 64. All right, I won't show you this part because in case anyone wants to read it, this is like right in the middle of the book, so don't want to ruin it. But let me really quickly count the lines and then we'll do the line. So there are 26 lines in this book. All right, let's randomize this 1 through 26 and we get 14. So line 14, go ahead, find that line and then count the words. All right, so there are 11 words on line 14. All right, I put 14. Oh my goodness. 11. There we go. Starting off strong here. All right, let's randomize that and see what we get. 8. All right, word 8. And then the title has to have how many letters are in this word. So hopefully we get a good one. Here we go. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the word is coffee, and that is 6 letters. So we have to find a book that has a 6-word title. All right, at least it's not like 9 or 10 words. So 6 is reasonable. That's like on the longer side, but not impossible. All right, so there are books here I'm choosing from. There's a book cart here and then a stack of books over there. On the stack of books over here, there is a series that each book has 6 words in the title. So that's what we're going to go with. Let me grab that series real quick. All right, so this is the Cursebreaker series by Brigid Kemmerer. And it starts off with a curse so dark and lonely, followed by a heart so fierce and broken, and then a vow so bold and deadly, each of which has 6 letters in it. So all we have to do is decide which of these 3 books we want to use for our next book. I mean, this could make or break the game right here, which one that we choose. I'm going to go with A Curse So Dark and Lonely because blue is my favorite color. And this is the blue book of the series. So hopefully this was a good choice. We will find out as we continue on with this game. I will say that I love this series. It's like a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and the entire series was so much fun to read. It'll definitely be a reread for me in the future at some point. And I enjoyed it from beginning to end. All right. Time to bring up our spin wheel and see what our second prompt is. All right, so here's our spin wheel now with only 9 prompts because we took away the last one that we did. So let's go ahead and spin and see what we'll be doing next. Here we go. Hopefully another good, easy prompt that fits well with this book. All right, so we got find a book that has similar elements on the cover. Okay, so let's see what this book has on the cover. All it really has is a viney, spiky, what's a thorn? There we go. A thorn vine on here with some leaves. And that's really the only element on this cover. Of course, to be fair, the other 2 books only really had thorns and flowers, though that one had the crowns. That would have made it a little bit easier, but that's okay. We got this. We need to find a book that has vines and thorns on it. I mean, I feel like you can find that on a fantasy book. It can't be that difficult. Let's start taking a look and see what we can find. These aren't really thorns. Maybe the dagger and the flame? Did that have some? No, it's just really just flames. Oh, here's one called Into the Woods by Ivy Asher. But that's also really just a tree. It also has a person on it and paw prints, so that doesn't really fit either. This may be more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I mean, this is a little bit closer. It's not thorns and vines, but it is a tree with a lot of leaves on it, maybe. The Cruel Prince is actually probably the closest so far. It does have, it's not really vines, but it is like a bare tree. And this has a bare tree as well. Just happens to have thorns, so I'm going to look through one more set of books, but if I can't find one that fits better, we're going to go with that one. Here we go. The Rose Bargain. These have thorns on them. I think this is the one we are going to go with. So yes, this one doesn't technically have flowers, but they both have those vines with thorns on them. I think this is pretty similar. I think this is a good match as far as the elements. Forget the color, but looking at the elements, I think this is a pretty good match. All right, so The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith has our vines with thorns on them. I'm currently reading this book and so far enjoying it. I'm interested to see what the ending is going to be like though. Let's go ahead, bring up the spin wheel again and see where we're going on our third prompt. All right, here's our spin wheel again, minus 2 prompts now. So we got 8 prompts. Let's see what we're going to go with next. Here we go. All right. So it looks like we'll be choosing a book that has the complementary colors of the cover of the book you just chose. So we have red, green, and gold. Let me look up the complementary colors. I know green is red. So I'm wondering pink's probably green. And then yellow is blue. So pink, green, and blue. Let me double check. Yes, so I said pink, green, and blue. I meant red, green, and blue. So we're looking for a book that is red, green, and blue on the cover. I don't know if we can find all 3, but we're going to do our best. Got a little bit of red and blue on this one, but no green. I feel like green is going to be the hard one. This is kind of, we got blue, some green, and some red, maybe. Again, we have like a green, red, but no blue. Combining the three colors, not the easiest. All right, this has a green mostly, but then we have a little bit of red up here and then some bluish colors as well. I think I like this one better than this one. Here's another one. We have some red in the flowers, some green, and some blue. I think this is actually our best option. The reason I say that is this book is mostly pink. The complementary, I can't say that word, color of pink is green. And then there's a little bit of green on here. We have a little bit of red on here. And then even less yellow, even less blue. Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. So this is the book we'll go with for the complementary colors. That was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But this is, I'm going to mess up this pronunciation. Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kang. I have not read this book yet. I have no idea what this book is about other than it's a historical fiction book, but that's not important. What is important is that the complementary colors match the Rose Bargain book. So let's go ahead and pull up the spin wheel and move on to our next prompt. All right, so we have our spin wheel. So let's go ahead and spin it and see what we'll be doing next. Hopefully it's not the one that has to do with tropes of the book, because I have no idea what tropes are in this book. With my luck, that's what's going to come up though. Let's go ahead and spin. Here we go. Hoping for the best. All right. Another random number generator prompt. All right, so for this one, we'll be using a random number generator to choose a random page and then a random line on that page. And then we just have to find a book that uses a word in that line in the title of the book. I remember doing this on my scavenger hunt last year and having a lot of difficulty with this one. So hopefully we'll have some better luck. Hopefully we'll get a good line and we'll see what happens. All right, first up, let's see how many words are words. How many, not counting words in the book, how many pages are in this book? What is the last number? 368. You may just have to believe me on that. There are 368 pages in this book. You're just going to have to believe me on that because I think this may be a spoiler possibly on this page. So let's do a random number between 1 and 368. All right, between 1 and 368, and we will get 110. All right. Kind of in the middle of the book. All right, and then I have to count lines. So let me do that real quick and I'll let you know how many lines there are on this page. Some lines are very short, so hopefully we won't get one of those. All right, there are 32 lines on this page. So let's go ahead. Now I'm becoming Mario. Let's go ahead and do a random number between 1 and 32. Here we go. Randomize. 26. Hopefully that's one of the longer lines. All right. It's like in the middle for how long the line is. But what the line says is, person needs to really live to feel alive sometimes. All right, so we have a lot of good words in here. We have person needs, really, live, feel alive sometimes. We gotta be able to find a book that has one of these words in it. Let's start looking at some options, or a option at least. We got darker, bipolar, tempest. And we're not using the and things like that, because I feel like that's cheating, unless we really, really have to. Language, darkness, within us. All right, none in that pile. Start looking back here. If you see one, let me know. Person, needs, live, never, no, needs, okay. Alive, light, live. I feel like I'm just saying random words at this point. This is not going so well. I have not found anything in this room. I'm going to go to my other room that has all my paperback books. Hopefully I'll find something there. I will come back and let you know. There's like a ton out there. There's gotta be something. All right, I have scavenged all of the books that I own, and none of them has any of the big words in the sentence in the title of the book. But I have found one that has 2 in the book, and technically it can be any word. I like to try for the big words, but if I can't find them, then we go with whatever word we can find. So we are going with Welcome to the School by the Sea by Jenny Colgan. The sentence again was, person needs to really live to feel alive sometimes. So to is in that sentence and to is in the title of this book. So that is where we are going. I tried my best, but we're stuck using to. All right, that was a difficult prompt. Let's go ahead and bring up the spinning wheel, and hopefully this next prompt is not so hard. All right, let's go ahead and do our next spin. Here we go. All right, let's see. We are finding a book that has similar tropes to the book I just chose. Great. So this is Welcome to the School by the Sea by Jenny Colgan. So I have read this book, so at least I know the tropes. It's a romance book. It's set in a school. It's not like fantasy, but it's an academia book set in England. And there's a little bit of like social classes to do with this because one of the main characters is a scholarship student while a couple of the other main characters are being paid by their wealthy families to attend this boarding school. So we got boarding school trope. We have a falling in love trope between two teachers. And we have friendship instead in the UK. I don't know. All right, let me go look and see what we get. This is not being easy today. So not a fantasy. That's not going to do it. We're going to need to find a romance or like a contemporary fiction book. Let's see. These are all fantasies up here. So I'm going to run back out to my other room again. I have a bunch of just contemporary romances out there that may fit this a little bit better than the books that I have in here, which are mostly fantasy. So I'll be right back once again. Actually, I decided I don't have to go out there. I am going to go with June Reimagined. So these are both set in the United Kingdom, albeit Scotland, Scotland in the United Kingdom, or in England. So that's a little bit different. They're both women who have moved to start a new life. The main character in this book, Maggie, moves to Cornwall to start her new teacher job, and June moves to Scotland to kind of reinvent herself. So they're both looking to kind of start anew. And this one, the main character, Maggie, is living at the boarding school because it is a boarding school. So she's kind of living in the boarding school, and in this one, June is living in the boarding house. That's similar, right? I think so. I think this is going to work. So June Reimagined is our next book. All right, we are halfway through. We have 5 more prompts to go. So let's go ahead and bring up the spin wheel and see what next prompt we will be looking at. All right, here's our spin wheel. Let's hope for a good one. Here we go. All right, I need something easy. All right, we have find a book that has a cover that has a similar color scheme. So this book is mostly blues and yellows. I feel like that's a pretty popular color choice for a lot of books. Maybe not fantasy, but some of the other books. So let me look through and see what we can find. So blue and yellows. This is kind of blue and yellow. It's not as bright and maybe a little bit more orangey, but that could be an option. Here we got Starfarers. That's definitely very similar. All right, I think that's what we are going to go with. These are pretty similar with their blues and their yellows. So we're going with Starfarers by Paul Anderson, which is a science fiction book that I have not read, but he's a pretty well-known science fiction author. He's also won the Hugo and Nebula, so a not just well-known, but a good writer. So at some point I will get to this, but that's not what we're here for today. We are here because this book matches the colors on our previous book's covers. And now it is time to go ahead and do our next spin and see what we're doing next. All right. We are down to 4 prompts. Let's go ahead and see what our next prompt is. All right. So this is the page number one. So we'll be reversing the page number of this book and then finding a book that matches or as close as we can to that reverse page number. All right, so this book has 495 pages. So we need a book that is 594 pages. Last time I did this, I totally messed it up. So I am going to do better this time. 594, that is like a fantasy book. That is what we need to look for. All right, let's see what The Awakening has. These books are pretty big, but I think this was right at 500. Yeah, so this one's just at 500, so not quite close enough. I don't think this is long enough. Kingmakers. Yeah, this is only 400. Here's one, Scarlet Odyssey. I have read this one before. This looks closer. All right, so this one is 546, so we're getting closer. I'll put this one to the side somewhere. Raven Scholar, this was a pretty big book. Over 600, 640. All right, then When the Moon Hatches is 500 and 560. This may be the closest that we get. All right, I think this is the closest we are going to get. So we are going to go with When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, which is a dragon fantasy that I have still not yet read, but eventually I will get to it. But this will be our next book, and let's see what prompt we're going to be doing for this book. All right, so here's the spin wheel. Let's see what we're doing. We got 3 prompts left. Here we go. Hopefully we end up with a good one that helps us choose a good book. All right, we are finding a book that has the same number of letters in the title. Of course, this is like a long title too. This is not going to be easy. All right, let's count the letters. This is more counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 letters. Remember that. 18 letters. We need to find a book that has 18 letters in it. The title. That wasn't that hard. Didn't see that coming. By Jesse Q. Santanto. The first one I looked at. 18 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I am not even going to bother trying to find another book because I don't want to spend all evening counting letters in a title. So, first book we got, that's the one we're going with. This is a YA romance that is set in Indonesia. It's just like a really fun book. I really enjoyed reading it and definitely had a lot of fun. It's about 2 gamers basically who end up falling in love. And it also discusses a lot about the difficulty females have in the gaming world. So I thought it was a really well-written book, and I definitely enjoyed reading it. All right, so we have 2 prompts left. Let's go ahead and bring up that wheel and see what our next to last prompt is. All right, here's our spinning wheel. There's 2 prompts, so let's go ahead and see what we get. Something about an author, and then something where we have to find a book. Here we go. Let's see. All right. This is important. This is getting us close to the finish line. All right. Find a book that starts with the most common consonant or vowel in the previous title. All right. So the most common consonant or vowel. So T looks to be the most common consonant. There's 3 T's. I see 2 D's, and 2 N's, but nothing else. So didn't see that coming. So T, so we need a book that either starts with T or the most common vowel, which is, let's see, there's 2 I's, 2 E's, 1 A, and 1 O. I almost said 0. So either T, E, or I. All right, we can do that. T, E, or I. And the doesn't count. T, E, or I. All right, we're going to go with Truly Devious. It starts with a T. And this is by Maureen Johnson. It's the first book in her Truly Devious series, which I definitely enjoyed. It's like a YA mystery book that's set at a boarding school called Ellingham Academy. And it's one of the series where the mystery doesn't end in the first book. There's a mystery that goes through the first 3 books in the series. And then I think there's additional books afterwards that deal with a different mystery, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. I mean, I haven't read those books yet. I am at that point. I finished the original trilogy. I am just rambling now because I don't know why. Anyway, Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson is going to be the book for this pick since it starts with a T. So let's go ahead. Actually, we will know what the prompt is, but we'll spin it anyway because I don't know if it will show up otherwise. All right, so we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel one last time so we can actually see what this prompt is. And then this is a prompt that's going to choose our book. This is what it all comes down to. So I can't spin it. Uh-oh, we have a problem. All right, we're going to reactivate this one. All right, and then hopefully this will, I'm going to spin it till we get red. Here's spin number 1. Come on, stop, stop, stop. All right, we got the last prompt. There's got to be a better way to do that, but that's how we're doing it for now. And that is a author that shares the same name as someone in the acknowledgments. Ooh. Hopefully this book has acknowledgments. So what this means is we have a acknowledgement page here. And in here, the author thanks a bunch of different people. And we just have to find a book that shares the name, either first or last, of someone in the acknowledgments. All right, let's get some names going. We have Catherine Teagan, Beth Dunphy, Mabel Sue, Kate Testerman, another Kate, a Felicity. We have a Robin, and then we have Cassandra Clare, Holly Black, and Sarah Brennan. We have Daniel, as well as a Jason, an Aaron, an Oscar, and a Zelda. All right, so those are our options. Okay, let's see. There's a Kate. We have a Kate Dillon. So here's one option, Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon. So that is an option. All right, here's a Sarah, The Stranded. All right, so I think those are the two books we'll be going with. So we have this one by Kate Dillon. Kate is in here a bunch. Catherine Teagan, Kate Testerman. And then we have The Stranded by Sarah Daniels, and Sarah Rees Brennan is in here. All right, we have two very different books to choose from. I'm not really sure what either of these are about, so let's learn about them before we choose them. So Until We Shatter is a fantasy book. So it looks like it's a romantasy that follows Semmy, Cemmy, and her life is under threat because the church would see her killed for having any magic. The Council of the Shades also wants her dead for not having enough. When her mother falls ill, Semmy has no choice but to turn thief, and when she's offered a job that could solve all their problems, it's impossible to resist. The catch is that she will have to work with Chase, who is beautiful, dangerous, and full of secrets, to steal a powerful relic the church has hidden within a deadly realm of shadows. If she succeeds, she will be safe. But if she's caught, she risks igniting a spark that could destroy the city and everyone inside. So this is a heist fantasy book, which is good because I can't remember if it's one of my bingos. One of those has a prompt where a book has to have a heist in it. I'm thinking it's the 52 books in 52 weeks, but I'm not entirely sure. So that would fit that prompt. So that's our first option, a heist fantasy. Her second option is The Stranded, which is more of a horror book. So it takes place on a luxurious cruise ship and that is now home to the stranded. For 40 years, they have lived and died on the water. No one can ever disembark. Esther, oh, I'm going to have a lot of trouble if I go with this book. Esther, can't say that, is 16 and a loyal citizen working hard for the rare chance to live a life on land as a medic. But her plans are derailed when she saves the injured Nick, a rebel intent on a dangerous strategy to liberate the Arcadia. Both are willing to risk everything to reach dry land, but as they become more involved in the rebel cause, they find themselves at the crux of a revolution where their choices will decide the fate of everyone on board. So the ship is their world. To survive, they must end it. I think this is a horror book. I'm not 100% sure. I don't read a lot of horrors. All right. So which one do I go with? This is a hard choice. All right, I think I'm going to go with Until We Shattered. I feel like this book, I don't know why, I feel like it needs to be raining. Maybe because it's set on the water, but I feel like this type of horror, maybe thriller, it just needs to be raining. It needs a thunderstorm to read it. And right now is super sunny and warmish, 70s. Warmish. And I feel like a heist fantasy, this is like the perfect weather. I don't know why. That's just what's going through my mind right now. So I think the book we will go with is Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon. And this is the book that we'll be reading for the rest of this video. So I will check back in once I get partway through it and let you know what I'm thinking about this. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, I am back and I've already read 100 pages in this book. It's like 1 in the afternoon, so I have all evening and night to finish it. So that is about a third of the way done. And I just realized I have a fabric cover on when I read my special edition books. So let me grab the real cover and I'll, so we can remind ourselves of what book I'm reading. I do love this fabric cover though. It has all these different color pumpkins. It's definitely very fallish, but fall is my favorite season, so I don't mind using fall stuff throughout the year. So here's the actual cover of the book, Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon, which I know now understand exactly what this title means. So like I said, I'm about 100 pages in, so we've had some world building, we've met our characters, and I know a little bit about what the heist that these characters are going to embark on, what that's about. So let me kind of share my thoughts up until this point. So first of all, like I said, this is a special edition. It's the Illumicrate edition of this book, and there is a author's letter that's embedded into the book. And I just wanted to share the last words of the letter because that is how I went into this book, reading the last words, which says, "But most of all, I hope that once you get to the end, you'll forgive me." So that just made me very curious to see how this book is going to end, and even more curious as I get to know the characters in this book. All right, so the first thing that really caught my attention in this book is the magic building, the magic world, and how magic functions in this world. So the magic in this world is based off of colors of the rainbow. And I love any good magic world building system that is based off the colors of the rainbow. For one, I always find it interesting to see how authors pair a color with a particular type of magic. And in this book, the colors that are used are the colors of the rainbow, so Roy G. Biv. So there are 7 different types of magic in this world, essentially. You'll see what I mean about that in a second. So each person who's able to wield magic can only wield the magic of one color. So the people who are known as shades, going with the shades of color, are able to kind of wield the full spectrum of that color, both in the physical world and in the what is known as the in-between world. And then there is the second group of people, they're known as the hues, and they are only able to wield their magic in the in-between world, and even in the in-between world, they can only wield it a certain way. Hues are born into this world in one of 2 ways. They're either the offspring of a full-blooded magic person and a non-magical person, or they are the offspring of a hue. Now, the main character in this book, Semi, is a hue. She is known as a bronze hue because her mom is a orange shade and her father was a non-magical person. So the bronze hue gives her the ability to touch and move things in the in-between world instead of passing through. So that is kind of like the magical system in this book, which I found fascinating. So the one thing I will say is I wish the hues magic was explained a little bit better in the book because it was a little bit confusing in the first 100 pages. It took me a while to kind of understand how the hues magic works in this world. Now, the characters themselves, I am enjoying. Like I said, the main character is Semi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Cemmy. And she, like I said, is a hue, a bronze hue. And her mother has become very ill, and she is trying to use her magic to earn money through thievery, basically, so that she can buy the medicine that her mom needs to stay alive and to function. And along the course of her thievery, she has met some other hues that she's become very good friends with, and the group of them does some higher level heists to get things that they need. Because in this world, the hues are hunted. I don't know why I said haunted. They are hunted by both the people who don't have magic and by the people who have magic, because the hues are a disruption to the in-between and to where magic comes from. So no one wants them alive. So they have to hide both their magic and really themselves from both sides of the magic versus non-magic world. So the basics of the plot and what this book is going to be about is that Semi and her little group of friends have been recruited by this shade that they've never heard of to be part of this big heist at this place called the Dominion, which is a very dangerous place to break into. And if they get caught, they most likely are going to be killed. But they really end up having no choice but to do this heist. So the book is the group of them preparing for the heist and figuring out how this heist is going to be done. Along with the shade they meet another hue who is the person that is going to help them prepare for this heist. So that's kind of where we are in the book. I really am enjoying the main character, Semi. I like her flaws. Her biggest flaw is that she lost a friend a while back, and that's really impacting her ability to use her magic. And I like how the author is kind of sticking with that, because I think if it was something that was so easy to get over, that loss of her friend, it wouldn't seem as realistic. There were parts in the first 100 pages that were a little bit slow to me, which I feel like is typical in heist books. I feel like the setup of the heist is typically a little bit slower than the heist itself. But like I said, I have enjoyed learning about the magic. I do like the magic system, and I do like the characters so far in this book. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next 200 pages that I have to go. So I'm going to get back to reading the book and see if this group is going to be successful in this heist. I'll probably check into you after another 100 pages, which will hopefully be around tea time. And then after that, I'm hopeful I can finish the book by the end of this night. So far, so good. I will check in with you again in a little bit. All right. I am back for the second time, and I am about 2/3 of the way done with the book. I don't really have too much to say at this point, so this will probably be a short update. There is a little bit more description of the magic system as you continue throughout the book. So I was a little, I guess, impatient to learn more in the first third, because you're still learning about it as you go through the book. So I now know more than I did last time I talked to you. So I have enjoyed the two main characters, Semi and Chase. I feel like I know who they are, especially Semi, maybe not so much Chase, but definitely Semi. I feel like I know who she is, where she's come from, what her strengths are, what her flaws are. The whole book is told from her viewpoint, so that's not surprising. I will say for the 4 side characters in this book, 4, that they are not as well fleshed out. I don't feel like I really truly know them, and it makes it really hard to kind of care about them, I would say. I know enough information to remember who is who, but I just don't feel myself connecting with the side characters. And I know with side characters, it can be difficult to do that, but I feel like just knowing a little bit about their strengths, about their flaws, about their fears and emotions, things like that will help flesh out those characters a little bit more, help me understand who they are and, how they got to where we are right now. The other thing I would say at this point is this book is just kind of filled with ups and downs, and I don't mean like positives, good things happening, bad things happening. I mean more that there are some sections that I kind of fly through because there's a lot of interesting things going on, and then there are still a lot of sections that it's very difficult to get through. It kind of slows me down. I find myself getting distracted a lot more easier than I do in other books, which I think is kind of like the downside. It's why it's taking me so long to get through this book, is those parts of the book that are just so slow. It's hard to pay attention and not get distracted. But that is where we are right now. Like I said, we're about 2/3 of the way through. This is like your typical heist book, like I said before, where, there's little heists that have to happen to get to the big heist. And that's exactly, how this book goes as well. So, like I said, I have about 1/3 of the way to go in this book, and I'm hoping to finish it tonight. It's 6 o'clock now, so I'm going to make some dinner and then get back to reading, and I have 130 pages left, so should finish before midnight, depending on how much I get distracted throughout this book. But 130 pages, it should technically only take a couple of hours. It'll probably take me a little bit longer unless the plot really picks up. So we'll find out when I reach the end, and that is when I will come back and talk to you next, after we have completed Until We Shatter, and then I will give you my final thoughts on this book. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, it's 11 o'clock at night, and I have finally completed Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon. This is obviously the dust cover. There's a reason I haven't quite put it on the book yet, and that's because after I finish a special edition book, I always like to look at the artwork, and I thought the artist is something kind of fun for this special edition book. So like I said during my first check-in, there's a physical world and a in-between world, and the big difference, which I don't think I mentioned, was the physical world is in color, and then the in-between world is in black and white and grays. They call it the gray. So I liked how the artist kind of incorporated that into their artwork. And I always like to look at all the characters as well, so I can kind of picture them in my mind when I read the book. But anyway, like I said, I have completed this book. I ended up giving it a 3.75 out of 5. There was a lot of things that I liked about it, but there were some things I thought could be improved upon. First off, I enjoyed the heist. I enjoyed how that all played out. It definitely captured my interest once we got to that point. It was a little slow getting up to that point, but once we were actually in the heist, I felt my attention much more captured than I did throughout some of the other sections of the book. And then, like I said previously, I still enjoy the two main characters, Semi and Chase. I like how the author characterized them, and I liked how Semi especially kind of grew throughout the book. In the beginning, there was a lot of things that she was fearful about, and it was a slow progress, but she definitely made progress in getting over those fears as the book went on. And I definitely liked the world building. I liked the magic based on color, and that you had shades, which were the full-blooded magic people, and then you had the hues, which were those who were half-blooded, basically. And I liked how the author kind of incorporated those two versions of it. Though I still feel there's some things that I am missing about the magical world. I thought overall it was pretty well thought out. There was positives to having magic, but then there was also negatives to it as well, consequences of using your magic. And I always like when magic systems aren't always omnipotent, I think that's the word, where you can basically just do magic and no harm comes from it. Now, for the things that I would improve, first of all, like I said before in my last check-in, I really wish that we got to know the four kind of side characters, their fellow heist members, a little bit better. And I think that's very important to this book when a group of people, are going on a heist. I think it's important to feel like you know all the characters and that you're attached to them and that you care, about the consequences of what is going on in these types of situations. So I do wish we got to learn a little bit more about the four side characters. One of them we did get to know a little bit more about, Novi, but the other three heist characters, which were Lydia, Ezo, and Eve, we didn't really get a lot of knowledge about them. And I felt like if we cared about those four characters a little bit more, the plot would have been a little bit more meaningful. Ooh, you can tell it's 11 o'clock at night. A little bit more meaningful as it progressed. And then the other thing I thought that would be interesting about this book is if it was told from both Semi's and Chase's point of view. This whole book is told from just Semi's point of view, which is fine, but I think it would have been interesting to see Chase's point of view as we went through this whole heist as well. And I think it would have brought a little bit more to the book, a little bit more insight into what's going on, and potentially even kept me engaged a little bit more, getting to see different viewpoints of what is going on throughout the book. So those are the two major things that I felt could have been improved on, was that just being a little bit more knowledgeable about the side characters so I could become a little bit more attached to them, and then having viewpoints from both Semi and Chase throughout the book. I think that may have made the book a little bit stronger. But overall, like I said, I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.75 out of 5. This is the author's third book, but her first fantasy book. Her other two are science fiction, and fantasy is definitely a little bit different than the science fiction world. So I'm interested to see how she does with her next book. The sequel to this book is Until We Collide, I believe. And that's coming out later this fall. So I definitely want to read that and see where she takes this story, because the elements I really enjoyed. I just felt there was, like I said, those couple of things that I think could have made the story a little bit stronger. But that is Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon. And that completes our scavenger hunt, which is great because it is 11 o'clock at night. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope that you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed playing it. I always love to see what book I'm going to end up with in these games. And definitely not a book I thought I would be reading this month. So that was a fun surprise. The next video that will be coming out will be my mythology-based game, which I am super excited about. And I cannot wait to see how this turns out. I'll be reading books that are based on mythology. They can be retellings, or they can just have a small snippet of the book that's based on mythology. So I cannot wait to see how that goes and see what books the game picks out for me to read. Hopefully not a ton of them, because I do have a lot to get through on my June TBR this month. But only the game will know. So that will be coming out next Friday, and then the Friday after that we'll be doing my color wheel spin game with a little bit of a twist. So I'm excited about that one too. Thank you once again for joining me for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you have any thoughts about Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon, please let me know in the comments below. If you want to just let me know that you've watched this video to the end, why don't we put a bronze medal, because the main character, Semi, had bronze magic. That seems to fit, right? And if you want to see more videos by me, please hit that subscribe button. Like I said, next week we'll be doing our mythology-based reading game, which I cannot wait for. And I will see you in that video. Take care. Bye!